WordPress has recently found itself mired in a real big muck of a controversy. For those of you not aware, WordPress is a software that is open source that powers a lot of websites around the world, including my website, which I really neglected and need to make more blog content on. But anyway, it's a content management system that many different news sites and different organizations, businesses use so that they can put up their websites in kind of a WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get, as well as you can code and all those other things. But it's an open source software, and the foundation behind it, or specifically the person that runs the foundation and WordPress.com, is finding themselves in a little bit of a heated battle with another company that happens to operate WordPress hosting, WP Engine. Before we dive deeper, make sure to hit like on this video, subscribe to my channel to see more of my content. We talk about tech, cybersecurity, Linux, gaming on Linux, and of course, we also do this live on Twitch and my other platforms that are down below in the description. And if you want, if you're interested, ask me to talk about this iPod Classic over here that I modified and put a bigger battery in and replaced the mechanical hard drive with because I like my retro tech. I'll be more than glad to talk about that with you, but let's get back into talking about this WordPress debacle. So if I can sum up this entire situation to one word, it has to be ego. So the honest truth is, when it comes to WP Engine, I'm not really particularly a fan of them either, but I have to say that the WordPress co-founder, Matt Mullenweg, if I said that name wrong, please correct me, is really the one more in the wrong with this whole situation going on, where he basically called them a cancer. So let's back up to how this whole situation started with WordPress versus WP Engine, and we can start with a great blog that was written up to describe the entire situation from Nate Hoffelder. I'm going to be linking this and other sources that I'll be using down in the description below if you want to read it, but basically in this blog they talk about how there was a WordPress conference called WordCamp US. Matt Mullenweg, again, was, the leader of Automattic and, of course, heads the WordPress Foundation. He was giving the keynote at this event. And there's a video covering this entire, event as well. They live streamed the whole thing, and then they uploaded it to YouTube, so it's around the 7-hour and 10 mark where his keynote is given. And he gives, a talk about the importance of maintaining a healthy open source ecosystem and how the major players should support that ecosystem by donating their developers' hours writing and updating their core code for WordPress. Sounds fair enough. But the issue here is Matt then goes on to single out one of the larger hosting companies, which is WP Engine. And he thinks that they're not donating enough developer hours into WordPress. He basically puts the CEO of WP Engine on screen and outright is encouraging people to move their sites away from WP Engine. He also did criticize a few others, in the past, like GoDaddy, but GoDaddy, of course, is not a great thing either. That's a whole other, kit and caboodle. We can discuss why I'm not a big fan of them. And, like I said, WP Engine is, of course, not a fan of mine too. But he called GoDaddy in the past a parasite. And I think these are very strong words for someone who is the face of the foundation, of Automattic, to be, using, and it's really, as I said, a whole bunch of ego is the issue here. This is around the time a blog post was written that says, what WP Engine gives you is not WordPress. It's something that they've chopped up, hacked, butchered to look like WordPress, but actually they're giving you a cheap knocked off and charging you more for it. This is one of the many reasons they are a cancer to WordPress, and it's important to remember that unchecked, cancer will spread. WP Engine is setting a poor standard that others may look at and think is okay to replicate. We must set a higher standard to ensure WordPress is here for the next 100 years. The problem with such strong language as this and causing controversy is that he doesn't seem to understand that whether you like it or not, these are open source softwares, and companies using open source software can use and run or hack the software in whatever ways they so choose and desire to operate as they see best fit. Whether we like it or not, Linux is in different platforms and different systems or BSDs or, different softwares. Pick a software. It's probably being run and hacked up in different ways by corporations that we may not necessarily agree with, but that is the nature of open source. And this kind of strong language is just as bad in my book as when Steve Ballmer called Linux a cancer. Microsoft still has that stain of such animosity and harsh words being spewed out that the Linux and open source community has never been able to fully trust Microsoft. Of course, there's many reasons besides that point as well, but it doesn't really help. I mean, a lot of it has to do with the Department of Justice uncovering of Embrace, Extend, Extinguish, amongst other things, but I digress. Now, let me take a moment here so we can all stop and talk about how you all can level up your coding skills with Codecrafters is an amazing platform for you to hone and improve your software development skills, allowing you to have challenges in all sorts of programming languages to build your own Redis server, build your own HTTP server, build your own interpreter, or, even build your own Git. You can basically remake a lot of popular projects out there running all sorts of languages. Just looking at this list here, they have Rust, Go, Python, C, C#, C++, Clojure, Crystal, Dart, Elixir, and the list goes on from there. So check out Codecrafters today in the link below and go and hone your software development skills. I know I'm going to be tinkering with them myself quite a bit. The thing you should know about open source software is that you have the freedom to use, study, distribute, modify, and even contribute to the code. But you are in no way, shape, or form required to contribute to the code itself and work on it. And that is the issue, is this entitlement that Matt has that they must work on the code. Would it be nice for them to do so? Absolutely. But they are in no way, shape, or form required to do so. Valve, the owner of Steam, that makes the Steam Deck, and the Steam Shop we all use, they voluntarily created and contribute to the Proton compatibility layer and project that allows gaming on Linux. They voluntarily also are helping out Arch Linux in different forms that actually are going to benefit the overall project. Are they required to do that? No, they voluntarily did that. The other thing is that Matt is the CEO of Automattic that owns WordPress.com and Tumblr, if anyone is curious about what happened to that organization as well, and also the head of the WordPress Foundation overseeing this entire project. And he's attacking another competitor at a professional conference. One could say potentially this is a little bit of a conflict of interest as well, and again, feeds into why I think this is a big ego pissing contest that he's having that shouldn't have happened. It has the additional knock-on effect of having more people talk about the drama with WordPress than actually learning about WordPress and the amazing things you can do with it and work with the technology, and because all they're going to be hearing now is the drama. When they go to look up WordPress, what are they going to be seeing? Articles about the drama. Before, the drama used to be, God, I hate this amount of plugins that I have to use. Why can't I do this better? God, I don't like this theme. That used to be the drama around it. Like maybe you heard the memes of WordPress developers don't actually know how to code and things like that. That was at most the drama that I heard. But now it's the first thing we're going to be hearing about is all this drama, and it's the same problem the Godot Foundation is finding themselves in with the Godot video game engine because they got involved in drama that they didn't need to be a part of, and now that is all everyone is talking about. That is a overall problem that's going to hurt the overall WordPress community, in my honest opinion. It's being revealed that Automattic, before they actually went into this entire drama, had demanded an 8% revenue from WP Engine as either to be paid as a royalty fee to Automattic or as salaries for WP Engine employees who would contribute to the WordPress.org open source project. It's also being said by The Verge, if WP Engine chose to pay a royalty fee, Automattic said it would publicly attribute part of its contributions to Five for the Future, a program that encourages companies to dedicate 5% of resources to the WordPress.org project, so the community understands your commitment to the long-term flourishing of WordPress. On the other hand, choosing to contribute 8% to WP Engine employees would give WordPress.org and Automattic full audit rights and access to employee records and time tracking at the company. The agreement also comes with a ban on forking or modifying Automattic software, including plugins and extensions like WooCommerce. That's sounding really authoritarian to me for an open source project. These are moves I would expect from Microsoft, not an open source project. This drama is so unnecessary that 159 employees, roughly 8.4% of Automattic staff, had walked out over the WP Engine feud when offered a severance package over the direction they were taking with this whole trademark feud dispute. That was roughly 79.2% of the people that were in the ecosystem business, and about 18.2% of which were from their Cosmos, which is their apps like Pocket Cast, Day One, Tumblr, and CloudUp. Matt has caused such a headache for a lot of WordPress developers out there that happen to be using WP Engine. Again, not a fan of them, but there are developers using them that have clients that they have to support, that they now have to go explain to all their different clients that, hey, your site is broken and there's nothing we can really do except move hosts or contact WP Engine because they blocked them from WordPress.org. This is a huge ego-driven issue that should have never happened. That is, again, going to cause more issues overall for the WordPress community, because we're going to be mired in having to discuss this drama rather than the technology around how we can make these great, amazing websites that work for all these different companies. Now all these companies have to scramble when they have different issues that they didn't need to have this issue happen before. They didn't think about the knock-on effects of how this is going to affect the community, the clients that have to be supported, and all of that. Again, this is a huge ego issue from Matt. I'm not a big fan of WP Engine. I'm not a big fan of GoDaddy either. But this is a problem where he shouldn't be creating this kind of drama for the entire community and then making radical moves that then cause headaches for the community. They even said, we at Automattic have been attempting to make a licensing deal with them for a very long time, and all they have done is string us along. And apparently, Matt even wrote in a September 26th post on his personal website, "Finally, I drew a line in the sand, which they have now leapt over." He drew a line in the sand. His ego, got the entire community into this whole dramatic point over nothing. And what he doesn't seem to understand is that the community isn't going to rally around him and be like, yeah, WP Engine, do your thing. They're just going to be seeing this as, yeah, WP Engine didn't do things right, but neither did Automattic over here. That when I'm on Blue Sky, I'm on Threads, I'm on Mastodon, which you're all more than welcome to, follow me and chat with me on over there. I'm seeing more people discussing what are the alternatives to WordPress than the WP Engine alternative, because they don't want to deal with the drama surrounding the WordPress Foundation, Automattic, WordPress.com, if Matt himself feels that this is a project he can personally direct and cause a headache for everyone over. My personal thoughts on this whole matter is, WP Engine, yeah, they could have been doing things better and all that, but Automattic / Mullenweg / WordPress Foundation, which they all basically seem to be one and the same in my perspective because it's Mullenweg running everything, is far more in the wrong on this whole situation. Open source software means you can use, study, modify, and possibly fork or contribute the code, though you are not required to contribute your code, and having an entitlement to force people to work on your stuff is a problem. You're sounding more like Microsoft in your demands over trademarks and things like that than you are sounding like a good member of the open source community, where you understand that, yes, some people are going to take your software and do things with it that you may not always agree with, but that's the nature of open source. That is one of the good and bad things, depending on how you look at it, is we can do with it as we please. If you want companies to contribute more to your project, you can catch them more with honey than vinegar. And that's a huge issue. You created a whole bunch of drama that was unnecessary, and a lot of us don't want to deal with it anymore. Just like what the Godot Foundation found themselves in with the Godot video game engine, when they set off a whole tizzy and banned a whole bunch of users that, caused a whole bunch of backlash with that whole situation. More people are now discussing the drama than the technology, that they would rather go elsewhere than have to deal with the drama. That is the whole situation here. Now, I hope that everyone out there has a great day, happy hacking, and I'll see you around.